Over the past like 8 or 9 months or so, I have started really annotating some of my books. Whether it's just putting tabs in, whether it's writing and scribbling all over the pages, whether it's a mixture of both. I love adding my little like personal touches to some of the books that I read, especially my favorite books, to not only prove that I read the book, but also just like add my own personal touch to it. And for anyone who ever reads the book after me or borrows it from me can have all of my thoughts with them as well as they go through the process of reading. Now it is relatively new. I've only been doing it for about 8 or 9 months, but I do have kind of a system down. So I figured that I could take you guys through my process of annotating Fearless by Lauren Roberts. I'm so excited that I have this book in my hands right now. This is the third book, well, fourth if you count the novella, book in the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. It's the final book in the trilogy, and it just came out, I think, a week and a half ago, and I got it in the mail a couple days ago, so I'm finally starting this one, and I could not be happier about it. Just for spoilers' sake, I will say that I did get to 20% between last night and this morning, so I have been reading it already, and I am very excited about it. I'm glad that I have this in my hands and then we can talk about it. But more than just doing a non-spoiler vlog on this book, I want to talk about my techniques for annotating. That way, if you want to start doing annotating as well, you kind of know where to start, what my tricks are, that kind of thing. So if you want to see more reading vlogs like this, let me know, subscribe, and let's get into this one by talking about supplies. If you weren't already aware, which I feel like is not very likely considering a lot of you guys came from this channel, but I have a second channel. My first channel actually is called Mango Studio, and it's a bullet journaling channel, and I bring that up because this cart, I don't even know if you can see all of it. I have a huge cart full of like markers, pens, stationery, washi tape, ephemera, things like that. I have a lot of things to choose from when annotating. However, I tend to just stick with the basics, and that is a basic Pentel ballpoint pen. This is black. This comes from your Office Depot, your local Walmart, anything like that. Very cheap, very accessible. Although this is a ballpoint pen, it is not like a gel pen, so it's not too liquidy where it would smear if I wrote in the books. And also, I like a fine tip to underline things with precision, so a 0.5 works for me. Now, if you are big into highlighting, great for you. Usually I stick to just underlining in my books to just make things easier when I bring in my book places, but if you like highlighting, I love zebra mild liners. I don't have one with me right now, but I have some at my house, and any other general highlighter is great. I also like using brush pens. Using a light color also works for highlighting because it has a brush nib, so you can highlight just like you would a normal highlighter. I would just recommend making sure that the color is light enough to read the text through it, and also not something so pigmented that it bleeds through the page. If you want to check that, maybe like go to the very back of the book, try not to spoil myself with this last page, but like the acknowledgements section, and then you can underline something, see if it bleeds through, and if it does, switch your markers. That way you're not ruining the pages at the beginning of the book or during the actual story. Now, as far as annotating tabs go, I am so fancy that I keep mine in a very basic plastic bag. I just got this very cheap set off of Amazon. If I can find it, I'll link it down below, but honestly, it's just annotating tabs. Like, you can find them. It's just a pack. I think there were like 20 different color palettes in this one. The one that I started using last night for Fearless is this one. It has a nice palette of pinks and greens, which is what I was looking for because oftentimes I like to match the colors of my tabs to the color of the cover of the book. I also like how tabs usually come in like coordinating color palettes. For example, this one is like all vintage muted tones. This is like a very cool tone color palette. They come like this on purpose. All the colors will kind of coordinate if that's what you're into. And the last thing I want to bring up here is I am a little bit type A, so whenever I underline things, I want things to be straight. For example, this line that I underlined last night, I want to make sure that my hand isn't like shaking. So what I like to do is use this annotating tab as a ruler almost, just rest it against the page and then like follow along the top with my pen. That way the line is straight. So dual functions. Not only does it have your tabs, but it also acts like a little built-in ruler, and it can act as a bookmark. With all that being said, I will have some links to some of my favorite stationery down in the description box if you're interested. But to be honest, don't think too hard about it. If you have a black pen or a ruler or sticky notes in your own house, don't even worry about spending money. Just use what you have available. That way you will be more inclined to continue doing it. I'm going to jump back into Fearless and get some more reading done. So let's get started with this book. So there's an age-old debate on, do you write in your books or do you not? Personally, as we know by this video, obviously since I'm annotating, I'm a big fan of writing in my books. It does take me longer to read a book when I annotate and add all my notes and stuff like that, especially when I'm trying to be all aesthetic and cute with like underlining and things. But I would say that I like adding my little personal touches. Now, I do think it's possible to annotate like with only tabs and not write in books. I mean, obviously the tabs are removable so you can still keep your book in good condition. And I also know that there are clear sticky notes that some people use where they put the sticky notes over the words and write on the sticky note, so you can see the text through the sticky note, but also you're not actually writing in the book. For me though, I will write in my book up, down, sideways. I will doggy ear, I will underline, I will do everything in my book basically because I like that it feels more loved. The question is, what do I write in my books? Honestly, nothing intellectual. Nothing intellectual. It's just my thoughts at the moment. And you might be very different. Again, this video is just about my personal process for annotating. I will put like a little LOL, or I'll put a LMAO, or little hearts and stars and doodles are my favorite little parts. I will like yell at the characters as if they can hear me. You know, I'll be like, why do you think that's a good idea? You're so dumb. Or, is he actually thinking this right now? Like, you're such an idiot. I'll write like kicking my feet and giggling because that's what I'm actively doing as I'm reading the section of the book. Like literally just whatever I'm thinking in the moment, whatever represents like my current actions or emotions while reading the book, I will write in. Because again, if I came back and reread this book years later, or if I gave it to a friend, they would know exactly how I'm feeling at the certain part of the book where I'm writing in it, because I'm just giving them like my little updates, you know? It's like texting a friend and being like, LMAO, this is so funny. I'm gonna write that down somewhere in the book. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be, you know, again, more in depth, more structured, if you want to write, this prose is good because, or I'm highlighting this section because of character growth, you do you, girl. Me, I am here for vibes and aesthetics. We brought this up before, so I am much more casual with how I write in books. And I also tend to write in cursive. Very personal preference, but I'm just saying that because I like how cursive looks. It's very pretty, and I like my books to be pretty. So honestly, I haven't written that much in this one so far, and I also don't have that many tabs. If you can see them, I only have like maybe 7 tabs in there so far. This might not be my best book to annotate for this video specifically because I am not actually underlining that much in the book. I like to underline things that are like flowery language or really emotional, hard-hitting parts in books, and also just like funny little quips and banter and stuff like that. Honestly, although I really do like the Powerless series, I gave the first book 4 stars, the novella was a 3-star, and then I think the second book was 4.5. So overall around a 4-star series, and I've been really excited for this one, but honestly, the writing isn't anything to write home about, and the banter is really cute between our main love interests, Kai and Peyton, but I'm not so emotionally drawn in like I would be to, for example, a Throne of Glass book that like my heart aches when I read those books because I'm just so attached to the characters. Also, if the prose was better, I would underline more, but again, it's just very basic, so not that much, but you get the picture with this book of my general process of what I do. Now, to talk about the plot for a second of this book, I'm not going to finish it in this video, I don't think, but I want to just give an overview of what this is about in the least spoiler way possible. So just talk about book 1 for a second, Powerless. This is about our main character, Peyton Gray, and she is what's called an ordinary, which means that she has no powers. Now, in this country, in this kingdom called Aaliyah, they have the ordinaries and they have the elites, and the elites have magical powers, and they are considered so much better than everyone else, right? They are rich, they are successful, the ordinaries are poor, hated on. It's very much a Red Queen. If you've read the Red Queen, this series is very similar to that, especially book 1, because in that book we have Peyton come in. Even though she is an ordinary, she is chosen to do these trials with the rest of the contestants who are elites, and one of the contestants is the younger prince of the kingdom, whose name is Kai. He's what's called the enforcer, which means he basically runs the army of the kingdom, and he goes and does the dirty work for the king being his dad, and then his older brother is the king to be. His name is Kit, and there is a love triangle situation in book 1, but I'm not gonna lie, it's not hard to tell who wins the love triangle. That's the basic premise of book 1. Book 3, I can't talk about too much because again, it is a spoiler to say what's happening in here because of what happened in the rest of the series, but I will say that although I am flying through this, it's very easy to read. I'm already familiar with the characters, I already know the situation here, the writing is very easy, and it's a very classic romantasy plotline, nothing out of the ordinary, but I am not feeling overly obsessed about it as I wish I was. I do want to talk spoilers for just a second to explain why I'm not doing that. So if you haven't read books 1 or 2, or I guess not even this book either because it is a spoiler for this book, skip to this timestamp here on the screen. It'll take like just a minute for me to talk about this, okay? So skip for this if you don't want to get spoilers for Fearless. Skip. All right, just for a second, let's talk spoilers. What I don't like about this book is that we are repeating what happened in book 1, okay? Book 1 was love triangle and trials. This book, Kit has basically demanded that Peyton marry him, right? Because he is doing it for the country and we need to unite the elite to the ordinaries and you're ordinary, so marry me. And I'm like, babe, she's in love with Kai, who's your brother, and he's the prince. So marrying the prince would do just as good as marrying the king, in my opinion, but no one would have to be unhappy about it because they're already in love. Like, it's just an obvious other option that I think they're just looking over. And then the fact that she's going back into the trials again, this is giving the same energy as Catching Fire in the Hunger Games when Katniss and Peeta had to go back to the games. Like, we already did this in book 1. Why are we here again? You know? Like, it's just a cop-out of trying to come up with different plot by doing basically the same things again. It's different. There's not other contestants and they're different trials and things like that, but it's essentially the same plot. And just having to prove herself as an ordinary once again. Book 2, Reckless, they say nothing happens, and it's true that it's really just a journey in the desert, but the dialogue, the character growth was so good. But in this, I feel like we're backtracking because Kai and Peyton are like hiding their relationship to just protect Kit, basically, and we're also doing the same thing as book 1 again. So end of spoilers, but I'm a little annoyed with a little bit in this book. But that being said, we still have so much to go. We have at least 70% left, so I'm sure something else is going to happen. There's going to be some crazy plot twists, I'm hoping, at least. But yeah, that's my update for right now. I'm going to try to read some more a little later. Good morning. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, but I did my nails. I had like this pink DIY gel that I usually do, but then I did alcohol markers on top and then put a clear coat on because I realized that alcohol markers like don't smear on the nails, which is so cool because I can do like more creative designs and stuff because I can just like draw them myself. My right hand is definitely shakier than my left because I use my left hand to do my right hand, but whatever. I've been in a very pinky mood recently. Speaking of pink, I had these really cute azaleas, but they have unfortunately died. So anyway, it's the next morning, and yesterday night plus this morning, I got to 50%, actually 55% of the way through Fearless. So far, you can kind of see the tabs on the side. At least I hope you can see them in focus. But I have a good half of the book done, and I do have some thoughts I want to discuss. I am unfortunately a little disappointed by this book. I mentioned yesterday how I was having a couple issues with it, but overall I was still enjoying it. And I would say that overall it's not a bad book by any means, but I was expecting more from the final book in this trilogy that is exceedingly popular. And unfortunately, I don't think this is measuring up to the expectations that we've all been holding. I'm not going to say anything spoilery like I did yesterday, but I will just say in general, the stakes are not high enough for me. This is the third book in a very popular trilogy, like I literally just said, and we have followed these characters through ups and downs through book 1 and 2, and plus the very emotional novella. And so I want this third book to pull at my heartstrings. I want there to be action, action, action. I want so much to be going on. But to be honest, not only is this, like I said yesterday, kind of repetitive from book 1, but also I'm realizing that the stakes are just so low. I've been seeing everyone cry at the end of this book, and I've been seeing people say that there were crazy plot twists at the end. And so I'm looking forward to get out of this like middle section slump and get towards like the last 30% where apparently things go haywire, because that's what I need right now. Instead, I'm just stuck in this very lengthy book. This is almost 600 pages. Like, I'm just chugging along, you know, nothing's really happening that's inciting me. I mean, sure, we have our characters going to do dangerous things and, you know, working through difficulties, but to be honest, because this is a YA fantasy book that is heavy on the romance, I would bet money that my two main characters are going to make it to the end of the book. I know there is some talks about what will happen to Kai, but since it's YA, I'm thinking and believing that they're both going to make it to the end. And every other character in this book, I don't care enough about to see if they die or not. That is so blunt. I don't mean it in a mean way, but I'm just saying that, like, I only care about two characters, and I think they're going to make it to the end. The rest of them, if they died, I wouldn't be sad about it. And honestly, one of them I actually want to be killed. That's that's a crazy sentence, but I'm just saying that, like, we're doing all this build-up and all this tension, but it's not actually working on me because I don't care enough, and I'm not worried. Like, I'm not stressed. I know that there are going to be some plot twists. I'm excited for the plot twist. I hope that something really crazy happens towards the end of this book, but honestly, right now, I'm looking at a 3.5 star rating, which is crazy for this book because I gave the first one 4 and the second one 4.5. Like, I was expecting, like, a 4.5, almost 5 star read from this, and it's just not living up to that expectation, quite frankly, which is also prevalent in the amount of tabs that I have. I mean, I'm tabbing for sure, but it's just not as many as I could be tabbing in, like, some of my other favorite books. I would just say that I was expecting a little more. But I do have still another 45% to go, so maybe I shouldn't speak too soon. But I did want to talk just quickly about tabbing. Now, personally, my method is very, very casual. Similarly to how I write in books, like I just write my thoughts and just whatever I'm thinking and very basic, you know, my tabbing system is very similarly simple. It's based on vibes and aesthetics. I'm not doing anything too structured. For example, this is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I read it last year and I tabbed it with yellow and red, which I think looks really cool against the black sprayed edges. Will it focus, please? Please focus. Hopefully some of that was not blurry. But anyway, the choice of where I put a red tab versus where I put a yellow tab, very random. I just like to make sure that there is an even mixture of red and yellow across the entire spine. That way it looks pretty when it's done. I'm not marking yellow for romance and red for good prose or anything like that. Another example is Clockwork Princess, which I just finished about a month ago. I have a lot of tabs in this book. I really, really enjoyed this one. And if you can see, there is a gradient between lighter colors up here to medium pinks to like a darker gray down here. Once again, the tabs in this book were not done based on certain categories, certain topics, things like that. I literally just put the tabs with the certain colors in order of the gradient to make the spine look pretty when the book is done. Now, I know a lot of people like to use tabs for certain things. People will do annotating keys at the beginning of their books where they have a list of the tabs and next to them they will write what the tab is for. So perhaps if I was using this annotating strip right here, I could use the red for romance, I could use the yellow for character growth, I could use the green for world building, I could use the blue for good prose, things like that. And if I was looking for certain things specific to the book, like let's say in this book, for example, I'm looking for sections with a lot of witty banter, I could use this light pink for witty banter and make it more personalized to each book that I'm reading. That is 100% so cool when people do that. It makes it so much easier to go back and look through your tabs if you're looking for something specific, because if I'm looking for a scene with good prose, I could immediately look for a blue tab, something like that. I get the benefits behind doing annotating tabs for certain categories. I really like when people do that. However, for me, I honestly feel like my brain is just focused on the story, and I just like tabbing my favorite sections, my favorite chapters that I want to come back to, maybe a really pretty line or some funny quips or something, or a section that I'm writing a lot of notes in the side of, I want to tab so I know where to come back to. But I am not very likely to actually pay much attention to what color goes where or the placement of the tabs. I'm just hoping that there'll be an even distribution of tabs by the time that the book is finished. Again, everyone has their own style. This is just my personal taste, but whatever works for you works for you. And I do encourage trying different methods and seeing what works best. Or you can even change up your method depending on types of books. Like nonfiction may be more structured versus like a cute little contemporary romance might be more fluffy and all over the place. A deep fantasy may be more in-depth, things like that. You do what works for you. And I'm going to do what makes my books pretty. I want to end things on a good note and talk about some of my favorite quotes from Fearless so far. I will keep these spoiler-free, but just to kind of give you the vibes of some of the things that I have been highlighting recently. The shake of her head is imploring. I am no one's queen. Is that so? My fingers find her cheek before trailing down the smooth slope of her nose. Then you have no idea how much power you hold over me. I push slowly through the crowd, my gaze unable to stray from such eminence. But watching isn't nearly enough. I could fall to my knees, beg to be the only one worthy of witnessing her. If you look like hell, he whispers with a sly grin, then I'm fortunate to be going there. In case you can't sense a theme, these are all things that our love interest is saying. Kai Azar is a poet, basically. The things he says are all gorgeous. This is so simple, but my father used to read them to me, she says softly. This one was my favorite. Tell me about it, I murmur. And I wrote in the margin, hottest thing ever, because honestly, if I was trying to talk about something and a guy told me to tell him about it, like he just wanted to hear more of me, like actually I'd die. I would die. All right, last one. Damn fate and duty and every other word meant to keep us apart. Tears slip from those blue eyes I would happily drown in. I want to hide with you beneath the willow tree. You are the secret I will spend the rest of my life keeping. I think everything else is probably a spoiler, but so far there are definitely some lines in here that are really sweet, that we want to highlight, underline a little bit, add my little notes in. And yeah, this is what we've gotten so far in the book, and you guys will see in my monthly wrap-up in just like a week, I think almost exactly a week, what my final thoughts are on this and what I rate it. I'm really hoping that the ending pulls it up to maybe a 4-star, but I'm crossing my fingers that it comes together. If you have any questions about annotating or my process, or you just want to hear more about annotating, see another vlog like this, comment down below and let me know. And as always, subscribe if you want to see my wrap-up video next week. I love you so much. Have an amazing week, and I will see you next Thursday.